Alright, I'm back. You've always got to pay attention when you're around heavy equipment. Although he has good visibility, boy, one of those things runs over you, you will feel it. It's very dangerous to hang around heavy equipment while it's being operated. And the vast majority of people watching this know this. It's just important to remind people, don't be casual around heavy equipment. These guys obviously don't want to hit you. They're focusing on their work, and it's a terrible outcome. So he's doing a great job. Here's a picture of what's going to happen. So we're going to clear all this area out, spread that asphalt, ground up asphalt, which, by the way, I have an acquaintance out in Washington State who thinks this stuff poisons the water. Now, bless her heart, I mean, I get it. Asphalt, petroleum product. Some people get anxious about it, but realize the United States EPA and every state EPA says this stuff is totally inert. It's benign, it's safe. So if you ever want a less expensive, more readily available gravel equivalent, ground up asphalt is great. It's safe. It will not pollute your water. Your well won't be destroyed. It's inert. It doesn't do anything. And I just remember years ago, this woman had some asphalt driveways, and they were going to be ground up. And when I suggested that she place it on the road, she got pretty upset, thinking that it was going to poison everything. And having never considered it myself, I actually looked it up. This is in Washington State, and the Washington State EPA has no problem with that, which sort of makes sense. If there was a problem with this stuff in terms of the environment or water pollution or danger to people, most EPAs, that's kind of their mission in life, is to prevent that from happening. So for those of you who are concerned, and there may be some, that somehow this recycled asphalt is somehow going to poison the groundwater, do not be concerned. At least there's no legitimate reason to be concerned. It won't happen. It's not going to do anything. It's inert. It's safe to use. And then think back decades ago when asphalt was just thrown away into dumps. Now they have the wonderful thing where they recycle it, ground it up. It's used up in doing new roads. It's used in this situation where I need a nice, clean, solid base that won't let anything grow through it, because when you mount these shipping containers, you want to have air going underneath the shipping container, so you always raise one end a little higher than the other so water runs off, and at the same time no moisture collects below the shipping container, because most shipping containers have wood floors, and the wood floors don't like the water. Because if you've seen these things on ocean liners, transatlantic shipping vessels, they always have an airspace between them. They don't put them flat on the ground. And you don't want to put them flat on the ground in this situation, because like I said, water will collect underneath there, ground gets wet, and then it will start to rot the wood. The moisture will penetrate through the wood flooring, the decking. So you always want one end elevated above the ground. You want air to move freely underneath it. It's a much better way to do that. And by the way, I learned that from Dave, the man who's operating the piece of equipment. So hopefully in the next month or so, I'll have another shipping container placed back here, store a couple more cars, which is always good. I'll be back. All right, it's Saturday, July 17th. I've got a good friend here, and what he's doing with his skidster is, I need another shipping container. That's not my car, that's Tyler's car. I'm cool with it. He needs a place to put it. But I store cars in these shipping containers, and they've proven to be a very good way to store two cars. Obviously, you drive one in, drive a second one in. They're nice because they're rodent resistant, vermin resistant, which makes sense. Shipping containers get put on ships, and obviously there's lots of mice and rodents on ships, and they can't penetrate these seals. So when you store a car for 6 months, the danger is the car's wiring or other aspect of the car will be destroyed if you park the car outside. I have done that, but it's not the preferred way of doing it. It also keeps the weather off them, snow, ice, rain, you name it, hail. And they are secure because since they're sitting in the container, they're pretty much indestructible. Containers do get warm, and as noted years ago, you get what's called container sweat because that container does not have any foam on the top. These two do, so these don't sweat. And container sweat is just the humidity inside the container, which when the weather changes and it suddenly gets cold, the humidity, the moisture collects on the top of the inside of the container and drips down. That's easily solved with cars because you just put thin plastic sheet over the car, so when it does sweat and rain, as it does in that one, the water hits the plastic and does not damage the paint surface. So Davey, who's a master at doing what you see him doing with the skidster, is going to clear out another space for another container. And Davey is quite very good at this stuff. Got a little bit of ground asphalt over there, which will then spread much as you see here, so we can park cars in between the containers that don't need the level of protection. Or let's say it's just summer and you need a place to put a vehicle or a trailer or a boat or whatever. There's sufficient space between the containers that you can actually bring in this carport affair, and voila, you've got a nice protected area. So he is going to clear out the trees and the bushes and all that stuff. Don't know what he's doing now. I assume he didn't like the way his bucket was attached to the front of the skidster. But I've known Dave now for, 20 years. He makes running a skidster look so easy. And if you've ever run a skidster, any heavy equipment, you know it's not easy. It takes a lot of skill to do it. And that's what he's doing now. He's cleaning up the area, moving all the junk. It's nice to know people like Dave who come on over and just take care of the problem. It's very nice. I'll be back. Yeah, it's a little windy today. It's probably about 80 degrees. The wind's coming out of the northeast, so it's a very pleasant breeze, and that's very much always the case. That is when you live next to Canada, which is where most people I know live. So Dave and I had a discussion. I'd like the space that you see there, which is about 10 or 12 feet, to be between here and where we're going to put the next container. Like I said before, it's just nice to be able to back things in there. They're out of sight, they're out of mind. It looks cleaner. So he's going to continue to clean up all of this foliage, which is obviously overgrown in the last 2 or 3 years while I have not lived here. Dave has no problem with doing that. That pipe there is actually an inspection pipe. When the solar array existed out there, they needed to put pipes down, so should the inspectors want to look at the lines that were here, they could look down that pipe. That pipe doesn't connect to anything. It's not a gas line, it's not an electrical line. It's just a piece of PVC pipe that's buried in the ground for inspection purposes. And of course, as usual, Dave, he has no problem in doing it. You just gotta say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Get his feedback. He suggests X, Y, and Z. 99% right, and then we go with it. Now there is a road that comes along here where we put the big 42-foot long enclosed trailer. I'd like to keep that road from being stopped, so Dave may have to install the next container pad a little bit proud of this one, maybe a little bit farther out, so we can keep that little road that goes around. Because quite honestly, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, was I going to need 4 containers? Of course, no frickin' way was I going to need 4 containers. But life changes, things move on. Clearly, I have enough old cars that can't be driven in the winter where they have to be stored safely, like in these containers. And from a cost standpoint, I don't think I mentioned these containers are awesome because on average, they're about $2,000. And I'm not saying that's cheap. Like I always say, that is not cheap. But you have to look at the long-term economics of anything like this that you spend $2,000 on. assume I spend $2 grand on the next container. To store 2 cars over 6 months would be about $200 a month for 2 cars, roughly, if they're in an enclosed, protected space. And in 6 months, that'd be $1,200. So you'd have a little more than half the price of a container already paid for. And assuming that those cars get stored for the next 10 years, you're looking at a very good return on investment, as opposed to finding a warehouse or a storage facility where you can put stuff that you want protected, like cars. And then to really make it better, since these containers are basically not aging, they're not getting worn out. Let's say you spend $2 grand on a container, it's going to be worth $2 grand in 10 years. So if I decide to get rid of the cars, clean up the whole area, I can get my money back, if not more, for each one of these containers. Well, that's a pretty good investment. I don't know of many things that you can put $2 grand into, unless it's art, gold, stocks. Well, I guess I do know a lot of things that can actually give you your money back after serving their purpose. So I've really grown fond of these containers. I have been thinking about putting a pole barn up, but given the current supply crisis, relative supply crisis, with equipment, material, and obviously contractors, which I'm having a relatively bad experience with, I'm thinking we'll just let the pole barn be a thought for next year or the year after, and we'll see what happens. But life is good. There'll be more video. All right, Dave and I had a quick conversation about what I hope to be able to accomplish. He's clearing out some extra area over here. I was just going to mention, and this is just the way I am, if you're going to be standing out in the sun, for most people, sun destroys one's skin. So always wear a hat. Yeah, it looks geeky, it looks stupid, but trust me, having taken care of a lot of skin damage, it's the best thing in the world you can do is just wear a hat. Protect yourself from the sun. The sun is not your friend. There's no such thing as, oh, I'm just gonna get a little tan. All you're doing is you're destroying the top layer of your skin, the epidermis, and the subcutaneous layer, which is what gives you support for the upper layer. Now, a lot of people dismiss that, but if you look back in the 1800s, people knew that the sun was bad. Unlike cowboy movies and all that stuff, you always saw them wearing hats because the sun did terrible things. And if you look at women, and I'm not picking on women, I'm using them as an example, the quote, beautiful women, whatever that means, whatever beauty means, I don't want anybody to get triggered when I use the word beauty, are the ones who wore large hats. Now, admittedly, they probably only lived into their 50s or 60s, but they knew the value of pure white skin that was not tan. So if somebody gives you a hard time because you wear a hat, you know, smile at them and just say the hat looks cool, you like it, but always wear a hat. Don't go out in the sun unless you have a hat. It protects your eyeballs from the UV radiation, it protects your skin from the UV radiation, and in the long run, you'll be happier. Also, if you have to see a dermatologist, a skin doctor, they will be very happy as you get older that your skin has not been sun damaged. Trust me, I've worked with these people. If you don't care, then by all means, don't wear a hat. And that way you can pay for your skin doctor or dermatologist's new Porsche or his kid's education. Just trust me, they're gonna be seeing you a lot. And you're gonna sit there and go, man, if I'd only worn a hat. So that's enough about the hats. I can't stop myself. I am obviously wearing a hat because it's just a better idea. Davey, of course, is doing an excellent job cleaning up the area for the new container. I'll be back. Well, you know, it's funny. I just had a very good friend come over because obviously doing fun stuff like this is fun to watch. And he expressed concerns about using recycled asphalt. And I had just mentioned previously, as you all know, that recycled asphalt is a wonderful material. And think about it this way. If there's toxicity to it, it's gone. whatever oils and everything else that was in it when it was first laid is gone. And realize, as I explained to my friend, this stuff covers the United States from top to bottom, back to front. I mean, it's everywhere. And the beauty of recycled asphalt is it's consistent with the philosophy of reduce, reuse, recycle. So we're reusing it. We're technically not recycling. I guess you could say we're recycling it. But understand, this stuff is incredibly safe. None of the states would allow it. The EPA and the federal government wouldn't allow it. It is very safe. So just like my neighbor, do not be freaked out when you see crushed asphalt. It's not a problem. Rest assured, I would not be putting this on my land if I thought that there was an environmental risk to it. Now, am I suggesting you eat it? Well, that's up to you. I wouldn't eat it. Do I think you should put it in your milk? No. Your juice? No. Your smoothie? No. I mean, I don't think it's made for human ingestion, but the EPA has never tested it for that. They use it, they've tested it for exactly what we're doing. Is it safe to use as a gravel substitute? And it is. Now, gravel generally is mined from the ground. They're in gravel mines. The nice thing about this is people are rebuilding roads all the time. The asphalt can't be used infinitely, so it's reused to do what I'm doing with it. A nice pad for the next container. So it's ideal. It's the perfect solution. It saves money, it saves the environment, it saves energy, it reduces waste. It is the perfect substitute for gravel, which of course is a new substance, comes out of gravel mines, gravel pits, and that's more energy intensive. This stuff is just picked up off of an existing roadway that's being rebuilt. They actually grind it on site along with cement or concrete, and then it's shipped to a storage location, and people like me buy it to use for this purpose. It's a great material. So just as I was reassuring my neighbor it's safe, he walked away going, yeah, I'm right. But once again, oh God, it's looking so good. Dave is so good with that machine. He can just make it. He's just a master at this stuff. Now we're gonna run out of this. There isn't enough here, so he's gonna bring another load, put it here. We're gonna gravel the whole area, and it's gonna look nice. It'll look clean. We'll have another container in the next couple of months. So it's going as planned. And the nice thing about someone like Dave, he's independent. He's willing to come over on a Saturday at the end of his day. He's already doing another job, another side job, and just takes care of this. And he's 2 miles away, roughly 2 miles. So it's all good. Talk to you later. Bye. All right, folks. These are what I believe are called Canadian thistles. Yes, they're prickly. They hurt. And I think they're a trash weed. I'm not sure. But I find them gorgeous. And in a couple of months, they'll have these big, beautiful purple flowers, if memory serves me right. Obviously, the bees enjoy them. They're really cool. I love them. So I just thought I'd share them with you. Very common in the Midwest. There, that's all I'll show you. But they're very neat. Well, Dave is a master at what he does. He's taken the pile and laid it out here. It's about 3 or 4 inches thick. And what it's hard to appreciate is he's actually got it sloped this way and that way. It's a very subtle slope. The amazing thing about Dave, I guess it's not that amazing after knowing him for all these years, is not only is he a genius at what he's doing right now, and he's just so skilled, he is one smart son of a gun. Yeah, he's a truck driver. Yeah, he's a heavy equipment operator. But this man is very smart. Don't think he's ever gone to college, but whatever. Who needs college unless you're going into a profession that requires it? But I really like Dave. He's kind, he's gentle, he listens well, always comes up with a solution, is never out for a fight. Just a very kind, gentle man. I'm very blessed that he's part of my life, not only because he can do what he's doing right now, but because of his wisdom. So we're pretty much done here. There'll be more recycled asphalt coming to finish this area. and then I'll get a container delivered in the next couple of months, and we'll have some more storage. So it's all been good. I hope you're having a great day. I will talk to you later. Bye.